bravery,
valor,
courage,
sacrifice. Hi, so we choose the Korean War because of the importance of it as a cornerstone to what would in the future become the integration of the United States military. And of course, technically, we know that it was already supposed to be integrated with the executive order that Truman passed in '48. We see things like the 24th Regiment, where Thurgood Marshall, who was famous for just a few years later overturning an 1896 ruling that would, when it is overturned, when he has it overturned, desegregate schools in America. So this is a very knowledgeable, important lawyer working for the NAACP. We have him being sent to Korea just to do an investigation because of the disproportionate quantity of court-martials coming out of one unit, the 24th Regiment, that just happened to be predominantly African American. So we see this sort of leading a path to the idea that's being presented for the nation that our African American soldiers are not good soldiers and not brave to stand the test of battle. When we see these court-martials just flowing out, the disproportionate quantity, and just how really technically we are integrated, but we're still just neck deep in a horrendous amount of discrimination. And so we come up against this, on the backs of the Jim Crow laws, and we look at, a technicality. Yes, we've provided them with the equality that we promised, but they're not being protected in the proper manner under the court-martials, or it's being taken advantage of and used incorrectly. So it's just a very interesting time. We'll see how this is really used as a cornerstone in the next few years, the next decade, as the civil rights movement comes into play in the United States.
Another example of African American progress in the military is the 77 Engineer Combat Company, who supported the infantry units and was led by Lieutenant Colonel Buzzy. They were stationed in Korea and fought bravely for 205 days consecutively in a battle in Joseon. Some years ago, Lieutenant Colonel was interviewed, and he was telling that he was amazed that after 10 years of that executive order, some higher ups, especially in the army, weren't following those orders and were ending segregation. They were perpetrating what was abolished in that executive order. He also told they didn't have adequately bedding. They were sleeping in the trunks of the jeep. They hadn't mosquito nets. They didn't have maps. The one they found were in the newspapers and only displayed the major cities. They didn't have a variety of food, and the overall equipment was a very poor, or was a storage from World War I, and was then brought up for them to use it. Another thing that caught my attention was the tale he was telling about a higher officer that supposedly had to recommend him for a congressional medal, and I would like to show you and read to you that part. And it says, "And so we were drinking along. We were on the way into North Korea at the same time, and we stopped on the side of the road for something. The whole convoy had stopped, and we got to talking, and he was saying, the general insisted that I put you in for a congressional medal for that thing at Joseon, but I disagree with him. I said, oh, why? And he said, well, you know how things are at home, and you kill more than John Wayne and other Murphy and all these other guys, and the American people wouldn't like that. We don't want black people to have heroes. Heroes are troublemakers, and so if you had this medal, then you'd be able to influence Boy Scouts and all kind of people, and this is not good for us. And I've been trained to not let these things happen, and I can't let it happen." I was very struck by this tale, and I want you to know about it, because every figure, law, and event we have portrayed in this Korea war was piling up towards equality, but